Thanks so much for coming. This is ER90. If you are here for Microsoft.NET Framework workshop, you're in the wrong place. Everybody's in the right place. Thanks so much. So I'm very excited because Namdi is one of the great investors I know in the city. He has a great background. And I'm very excited about tonight. We had like a record sign-ups, I think 340 something. So, you know, he's the star, bringing all you guys here. And we also had a bunch of companies apply to pitch to him. And we picked 5 great companies. They're going to come up here and pitch. But before that, anyone from Microsoft here? All right, let's just thank Microsoft for letting us use this great space. Thank you. Thank you. I'll tell them you guys applauded. And they have this free resource called BizSpark. It's free to sign up, and you get lots of free software. If you're a software company valued at less than $1 billion, no, I'm kidding. If you're a software company less than 2 years old, you can get it. And tonight we'll have Namdi give us a presentation, tell us more about his background, like how he got here. More importantly, tonight, how many people here are entrepreneurs, have startups? Yeah, awesome. And how many people here would like cash from an investor, would like some investment? Good, okay, you're in the right place. So all of us, no catch, everybody gets money. Look under your seat. So by the end of tonight, when you walk out of here, you should absolutely understand what 645 Ventures invests in, what they look for, how to get in touch with them, and all the good stuff. So also, Namdi will hear the pitches from 5 startups that we picked, and he's going to give them feedback, he's going to engage with them, and maybe he's going to meet them tomorrow or next week for follow-on meetings, investment meetings. So I'm pretty excited, and in the end, as usual, as always, we are going to pick one impromptu entrepreneur to come up here and do a pitch. So get ready for that. And he has to be out of here by 8 p.m. So we'll do this pretty quick, and here we go. This is Namdi. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, Murat. Thanks for having me. Murat didn't tell me ahead of time that everybody's getting funded, so I think he's supposed to be the person funding. But I appreciate you guys having me here. Excited to tell you a bit about our fund and then hear the pitches. And we'd love to make this as interactive as possible. So if people have questions, just jump in and feel free to raise your hand. So I thought I'd spend a little bit of time giving you background on our fund, kind of what we do and our approach, and then we'd love to hear the pitches and kind of learn more about what people are building. So maybe I can start a little bit with my background and then dive into kind of who we are. So I've been a venture capital investor since 2002. I got a lucky break coming out of college. I started at a firm called Insight Ventures. Has anybody seen Insight Ventures in the city? Anybody know them? Okay. So Insight today is a very large multi-stage fund, but when I joined them, when they were pretty early in their history, they focus on software and internet companies, so things like SaaS, marketplaces, infrastructure software. So that's where I started my career, was as a deal sourcer, somebody going out and trying to find companies. And I don't know if people have built large companies here, but you might have gotten a call from me at some point. I used to do cold calling when I started my career to basically find deals. That's how I started. And I worked my way up in the venture business. So I spent close to 9 years at Insight. I did 17 deals at Insight, had 5 companies that exited. 2 were IPOs. One was a company called DivX Networks. The second was called Mindcast. I don't know if anybody knows those companies. And then 3 were M&As. And learned the venture business at Insight from some really smart people. I wanted to do earlier stage investing for a couple of reasons, which I can get into, which led myself and my partners to start a new fund, 645. And our approach really is to take elements of growth stage investing and apply them a lot earlier. And specifically, we're a very data-driven fund. We have proprietary software we use to track a lot of different companies to analyze deal flow. We also have what we call a client service approach and model to help companies go from seed to Series A and beyond. And so it's a resource-intensive approach. And it's a little bit different than traditional seed, which oftentimes is investing in a lot of companies, not much in the way of help, and a very passive approach. Our approach is very different. So give you a little background on us. So we're a seed stage fund. We primarily invest in what we call the first institutional round. And so that's typically post-accelerator post-angel, typically when companies have at least one product in the market, early revenue traction, and are starting to scale. And what we do is we very actively help companies go from seed to Series A. We reinvest at the Series A, typically put more money to work, and then we work with companies very actively to help them. We're headquartered here in New York. We've got 16 companies in our portfolio today. Actually, we have a couple of ERA companies in our portfolio, so we think very highly of ERA. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what I've seen and what we've seen in the seed market and how things are changing, and how our fund has been built really to capitalize on those changes. So I think the first general theme that we strongly believe is that the seed stage market is undergoing profound change. And why is that? There's a couple of reasons why. I think the first is that there's a proliferation of companies getting started today. And there's a proliferation of funding sources. That's everything from accelerators to angel groups. You've got angel lists. You've got all kinds of different ways companies can raise money. You've got a proliferation of seed funds. But we believe that today, there's a couple of changes in terms of, one, how companies can get found, how they can scale. So in terms of how they can scale, we believe that companies can be scaled with less capital, partly because you can do online sales and marketing. There's reduced complexity to code. There's a lot of things that today where companies can raise a couple $1 million and grow to a large size versus 10, 15 years ago, that would have been possible. So that's the first change that we see. The second is we believe that today seed stage investors don't need to rely primarily on gut feel. So I'm sure a lot of you folks have gone to pitch to VCs, and you may come out saying, well, I don't really understand what happened. I pitched well, and I thought my pitch was great, and we presented a great story, and kind of, why did the VC pass? We believe that a lot of times VCs are passing based upon gut feel and things that are very subjective. What we try to do is make it more objective. And so a lot of things that we do are very much metrics driven. So when we go in, we're studying unit economics. We're studying, we're doing deep dives on market size. We're spending a lot of time understanding the guts of a company, and we're presenting that data back to companies. Even if we don't invest, a lot of our approach is to give founders a rationale for how our analysis works. And if we do invest, we share a lot of our due diligence and use that to inform how we help a company after investing. So it's a little bit of a different model. I think the last point, and I think it's always been true, but I think it's even more true today, is that entrepreneurs have a lot of different options in terms of raising capital. And there's really a premium placed upon investors who can help them to grow, who are more than just capital. And so for those folks who have raised seed rounds or raised A rounds, I think, I'm sure you sat down with VCs and you said, okay, they may be able to provide me capital, but I really don't want to work with those guys, or they really can't help me. And so our approach is different. Our approach is to provide a lot of resources to help companies, and we think that's it will be one of our calling cards. So a little bit in terms of what we do. So we have proprietary software that we use to help us analyze a lot of different trends in the market. And those are everything from angel investment data. We spend a lot of time analyzing what's happening on angel lists. We spend a lot of time analyzing things like internet traffic and software download information. We also track information on founders, so what they've done before, what companies they've come out of, and we use that to inform where we look. We also focus on specific sectors, which I can get into, and we spend a lot of time digging into those sectors. And I think the last thing is we try to apply institutional grade due diligence at the seed. And we help companies in a sense of educating them about what bigger investors are going to be looking for later on. And so we help prepare our companies to raise Series A and Series B rounds, because a lot of the questions that we're asking are ones that they're going to be getting from some of those bigger investors that come in later. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie Moneyball or read the book. I'm sure some people here have. There you go. I'm a big fan of Moneyball and the approach. And we aspire to be the Open Gates of early stage venture, in the sense that we want to exploit inefficiencies in the market and find companies that are undiscovered gems, companies that other investors may have missed or have overlooked, and build a really strong portfolio of companies that have potential to be great winners. And so our approach, again, is kind of, I guess, for those who have studied baseball, a little bit like sabermetrics for venture. This is our portfolio today. So we've got 16 companies in our portfolio. There are really three key areas where we've been most active. Those are marketplaces, software as a service, and application software. We also will invest in what we call nascent markets. So two examples would be virtual reality and Internet of Things. I think the recurring thread that you see running through our portfolio is a couple of things. Typically, these are companies that can scale with limited early capital investment. And so we typically don't invest in companies that are CapEx heavy at the beginning. They're typically companies that can get to revenue with less than a couple of $1 million, in companies that can start to monetize pretty early, with a couple of exceptions. Typically, they're companies that have software as kind of the guts of what they do, even if it's a physical product. The intelligence is typically in the software. And then companies that we think have the potential to grow and get very large, and have the potential to be very strong exits. Some of these names you may recognize. So today, the majority actually of our companies are New York based. We have 4 that are in the Bay Area. We've got one in Boston, one in DC. And so New York is a key area for us. And the last thing I think I would talk about is our mission. Our mission is to bring the invisible to life. So we think about bringing the invisible to life in the sense of enabling entrepreneurs who are trying to build great companies, which are at the phase where they're still really in the very early stages. So maybe in a sense, an incomplete picture. And we want to help the entrepreneurs to bring their dreams to life, and we want to play a small part in that. And so that's our approach and our mission. So that's some background and kind of who we are, what we do. Hopefully that's helpful. If anybody has questions.
You may have already addressed this, but what is your definition of marketplace when you showed the segment?
Sure. And I can talk about a couple of examples just to explain. So we do both business to business and business to consumer marketplaces. So some of these companies people may have run across. AppDeco is a company that is an online marketplace for the purchase and sale of furniture online. They sell to consumers who are folks who either may want to purchase furniture but may not want to pay full price. They also make it very easy for sellers to have a seamless process of selling their furniture. It's a true online marketplace in the sense of AppDeco being kind of the go-between between buyers and sellers. So that's a B2C consumer marketplace. Hire Esquire is one that I would you really kind of describe as a B2B marketplace. They connect lawyers with law firms and corporate legal departments. So they basically facilitate the hiring. It's basically, I'd say, automating the staffing business, taking an old school offline staffing business, bringing it online, making it more transparent, and basically, again, kind of creating a bridge between buyers and sellers. So that's kind of how we define it, in a sense. Typically, these are companies that monetize via percentage of transaction. Typically, they're ones that they can be very scalable in the sense that they don't hold inventory. Really, at the end of the day, you have to build a great place where people want to come back and facilitate those interactions. So that's how we define marketplaces. No problem.
How much do you typically invest, or what is the range, and what is your AUM?
Definitely. So we typically put to work, and I think I described it here, up to $250K at the seed, and then we typically put to work between $500K and $1 million over a company's lifetime. And so for our fund, we've done 16 deals to date. Our aim is to do roughly 25 deals over the course of the fund. We've got a $25 million fund. And so we, very similar to a lot of seed funds out there, we believe that you can make a great multiple on a fund that's relatively small by investing in great companies very early. And so as a result, we're very much valuation sensitive.
Approximately how many investments in maybe you?
That's a great question. So we make roughly, I would say, in the range of 7 to 8 investments, and it depends. So this year, although we're looking at a couple of new things, a lot of our focus is to reinvest in our existing portfolio. So we have several companies that are going to be raising new rounds and Series A rounds, and so we reserve capital to do that. But I would say somewhere in the range of 7 to 8 kind of new deals per year. And if it's a great year, we see some great things, we may do more. But that's roughly the number.
How old is your fund?
Great. Yeah. So we were started at the end of 2013. So we're 2.5 years old. So we're not a very old fund. We're still relatively new, and we still consider ourselves somewhat of a startup. It's different. We don't do as much in the way of cold calling, although we still will do outbound. So our approach is, I guess, a more focused approach in the sense that we try to get warm introductions rather than just calling companies up. But in some cases, we'll cold email. Yeah. That's what we do.
I'm curious, what's the significance of the name?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a, so 645, I grew up in Massachusetts, I don't know if anybody's from Massachusetts, it's a local phone code in Massachusetts, there's no big significance to it. I just liked it, and it kind of stuck. It may change at some point though.
What kind of valuations do you give out at 500?
Yeah, so I would say the typical seed deal that we do, it'd probably be a valuation somewhere in the $5 million range. It depends. So there's some companies, and I personally think we're kind of in an exuberant market. So if you look at seed stage pricing, round sizes have gone up. I should say valuations have gone up considerably over the past couple of years. But most of the deals we've tried to get into, I would say pre-money valuations in the, on average, 5 range. I would say the lower end is probably $3 million. On the higher end, there could be some companies more in the 10 range. We try to shy away from companies that are raising seed rounds above 10. I mean, it's just hard to make the numbers work. We may do a Series A. Every now and again, we'll get into a company at the Series A because we didn't see it at the seed, given that we're a new fund. But most of our deals are kind of first institutional round, and we try to be as disciplined as we can in terms of price.
What's the best way to reach out to you?
Sure. Yeah. So you can. I've got my email at the end of this. I think. Oh. Yeah. So that's a great question. I think for us, yeah, like everybody, it's typically warm intro. So it could be. Through one of our portfolio company CEOs, it could be through somebody we know. If there's something, if you don't have a connection, feel free to send me, an investor deck or presentation. I'll do my best to look at it. We have a team. People can submit things through our website. We have somebody who typically reviews those, and so there are different ways.
Besides the money, what else do you bring on board?
Yeah.
In terms of mentorship or like guidance and like.
Sure. So that's a great question. There's a couple things that we do. We kind of break it into buckets. So the first thing is help with recruiting. So if there's specific hires that a company is looking to make, we can activate our networks. That's everything from recruiting firms that we know, folks. We typically will help companies do searches and also vet the candidates. Once they kind of had a narrowed down list, we'll typically help with interviews and interviewing candidates. So recruiting is big. Investors, so helping companies raise more money, particularly at the Series A, is a big focus for us. So our LPs include some guys who run some of the best funds out there. So examples of our LPs include guys like Mark Andreessen from Andreessen Horowitz, Howard Morgan from First Round, Scott Maxwell from OpenView Ventures, and a lot of great entrepreneurs. And so we try to utilize those folks to help us. So if a company is going to raise a Series A round, we want to make sure that Series A funds are taking a very close look. So we help there. What else do we do? We have a team member, her name is Desi Levinson. We call her our VP of Design and Storytelling. She helps our companies with telling their stories. That's everything from telling their stories to investors, to customers, things like PR, branding, marketing. We help there. What else do we do? And then I think the last thing is we're just kind of a sounding board. So we always try to be available if companies have issues or challenges, and we try to find a way to help them in that regard. And oftentimes it's finding the right introduction.
Of those 7 to 8 companies that you invest in each year, what percentage would you say are those other companies you typically look at case studies?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a funnel, and let me just think through the numbers. So we have about 2,000 companies today in our database that we're tracking. I would say about 1,300 to 1,400 of those companies are companies that could be potential deals. And so we have a funnel. So in a given year of those companies, we'll probably talk to by phone or have meetings with, I would say, at least a couple of hundred. So given week, we're probably seeing at least 4 to 5 companies, in some cases more. So say we're going through an accelerator, we may take a look at 15 companies coming out of an accelerator. And so in the hundreds, I would say multiple hundred of companies we're probably speaking to, meeting with in a given year. And then we're, the ones that we're probably seriously considering, I'd probably say in the range of, 40 to 50. And of those, we'll probably invest in somewhere in the 7 to 8 range. That's kind of the funnel and the filter. It's probably very similar to a lot of VC funds. I think that process in terms of kind of casting a wide net, I think is typical. I think the difference in terms of what we do is we try to automate that in a sense. So we try to continue to collect information on companies and track them, and also proactively reach out. So there are certain things that will trigger us to reach out to a company. That could be everything from rapid growth of its internet traffic. That could be making a key hire. That could be prominent angels getting involved early. Also, coming out of a good accelerator. Those are all things that make us more interested.
It seems like some of the companies that you had were operating domestically and regionally, but you guys have a portfolio of companies that operate here but have a market internationally?
That's a great question. And I can kind of go through and maybe talk through a couple. Most of our companies have primarily kind of US customers. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think a lot of them are very early. They're US based, and over time they may expand outside. But today, they're kind of primarily domestic, domestically targeting. But I would say there's a couple of companies that have large user bases outside the US. So FlyLabs would be a good example. So FlyLabs was recently acquired by Google. FlyLabs had about 3 million users for its mobile software. A large percentage of those were outside the US. It's a downloadable app. Anybody can download it. It's downloadable from the App Store. And so that's one that had a lot of users outside the US. I think there are others that over time I think will expand. So it really kind of depends. But I would say most of our companies today are primarily kind of selling to either businesses here or consumers here. That's just the nature of it. We don't today do international investing. So part of our focus is to be very helpful and hands-on with companies, and for that reason, we want to be investing in companies that are easy to get to and easy to monitor. So we don't do today anything outside the U.S.
Hi there. My name is Shlomo. I work with startups at the ERA.
Sure.
And usually there is a lot of questions around when is the right time to raise money.
Yeah.
When you can or when you should. Do you help with this kind of question to startups?
Yeah, that is a good question. So how would I answer that? So I personally advise companies to raise money when they know what to do with it, and to raise money when they have a plan in terms of utilizing that capital. Now, markets move in waves, so there are certain periods of time where capital is much more available than other times. And you definitely want to be planning for periods where capital is very scarce. So in cases where, in some cases, I think now even, I think people are thinking that the capital markets in technology may shrink a little bit over the next few years. And so companies are kind of loading up in terms of their war chest. But I personally think great companies can raise money in a range of different environments. I think businesses with great underlying fundamentals and business economics will always be able to raise money. And so I personally think focusing on building a great company and then thinking about how much you need and when you need it and planning for that future, I think is the best way to think about it. And so I always advise companies to think through in detail kind of use of capital, and whatever they're pitching to VCs, know exactly what they're going to be using the money for. And so oftentimes we'll hear pitches and the amount of capital a company's seeking is very divergent from the amount of capital that they need if you kind of dig under the covers a little bit. And the rationale for kind of why they're raising a certain amount of money isn't very clear. And so I often really think through what does your underlying business kind of dictate in terms of your capital need, and then planning. And I think that will probably get you to a better answer rather than kind of reacting to the market or just raising money because you think you might need it at some point. So that's kind of.
Thank you so much. So great, that was really useful and helpful. And now we have 5 companies they're going to pitch, and they are really great companies. The first one is Jeff Bonner with I Am Totally. And you have 4 minutes, and the hook is coming out after that.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Bonner. I'm the CEO of Totally Pregnant.
Nice to meet you.
We have a mobile app for today's connected, engaged pregnant mom. The app feature, all the content in the app changes constantly as you go through the 40 weeks of pregnancy. So mom's always coming back engaged. Key part of the design of the app is to keep mom engaged. So videos change, the content changes. The app's award-winning. Forbes magazine called us one of the top 10 health tech companies changing the world. Our videos have won awards, 3D simulations of the baby in the womb developing, a couple of new videos every week. Johnson & Johnson has licensed the videos. They liked them so much. They use them as part of their marketing efforts. Currently, 95% of all pregnant moms in Israel use the app. And In the US, we have about 400,000 installs. We have 140,000 Facebook likes. We have 25,000 videos a month served. So the app's engaged. There's people using the app. Let's see. The pain point we're addressing and the way we're focusing the app as a business model is we're selling it to hospitals and healthcare organizations. The key idea there is they need new modern ways to engage with patients. They need ways to market themselves. It's got to be kind of a subtle marketing pitch from a hospital, but nonetheless, they're very intent on marketing. Many hospitals are in extreme growth mode, looking for ways to attract a family, which means literally a customer for the next 18 years. So that's who we sell to. The largest healthcare organization in Israel uses the app exactly that way. Clalit is the name of the organization. A few years ago, they were getting grades of D, as in dog, for their patient satisfaction. And they were known as the place to not have your pregnancy in Israel. So with our app, and some other things as well, but with our app, they're now getting B's, B as in boy, scores in patient satisfaction, and they've increased their pregnancy market share by 30%. So that's the model we're replicating in the US. We have 2 hospitals so far. We're actively engaged in marketing it. We have an endorsement from the Texas Hospital Association, which is selling to hospitals is a big, complicated enterprise sales. The Texas Hospital Association gets us in the door in the right place. So most of our pipeline is in Texas, and we expect a number of other flows very soon there. Let's see. The part of the marketing, and a key part of the marketing, is we're marketing the app through Facebook and other kinds of online things. We get about 40,000 installs a month with our current very tiny drip feed marketing. We get 40,000 installs a month. That means in New York City, it's 1,300 new installs each month. In Houston, it's 1,200 new installs each month, and so on. So what we're marketing right now is a hospital gets an exclusive for their geographical area. If you go to Facebook, find out about the app, install it, and you're in New York, and New York Presbyterian has licensed our app, you will get the New York Presbyterian version of the app. So it's a highly targeted marketing, highly cost effective, and you get this beautiful app that's yours. Okay. We have a team of user engagement experts and programmers. We have 1 salesperson in Texas. I have a long entrepreneurial background, including the WebSphere application at IBM. I led the team delivering the first version of WebSphere a while back. One of my big accomplishments. And I have a PhD in computer science. We're looking for $500,000 to launch our marketing, to kind of upgrade our marketing, and to focus on totally toddler, which is sort of the next obvious thing for our customers to be using.
Well, thanks for the presentation and the summary. I always love to hear a little bit of the motivation for founding a company as a founder. So can you talk a little bit about how you identified this problem and how your team is positioned to solve it? So you mentioned your technical background, which is great in terms of building the app. But maybe talk a little bit about kind of any domain expertise that you guys have, in healthcare or relating to pregnancy, and then kind of what were the things that motivated you to solve this problem of all the things you could have done?
Yeah, the founder of our company, I'm not actually the founder. I'm the US CEO. All right. The founder is a kind of content patient engagement expert, and he was looking for, like, healthcare is not going to be going to the hospital and getting pamphlets 5 years from now, or even for 10 years from now. Sure. It's going to be, you're going to have apps, you're going to be engaged, you're going to be doing telemedicine, and to get all that to work, and to get it to, like, we got to get from here to there, and the healthcare in the US is as complicated and as confused and messy as possible. Yeah. So you need really engaging things to get us there. Okay. So when we're talking to a hospital, we have to be very careful about this as a medical delivery device, but it is, and it will be 5 years from now for sure. Mm-hmm. So Nibadi, who's the founder, was looking to build an app that would engage people, that would be so much fun and so interesting, and not have, if you get a pamphlet from the hospital or a baby book, it's too much content all at once, not organized the way you need it.
Sure.
If you have an app that says, oh, you're in week 22, and in week 22, here's what your baby looks like, and here's the supplements you should be taking, and you should be looking into yoga, and you should be like that. That's what he designed it to be, is something that would engage mom over and over again, get exactly what they need when they need it.
Cool. Okay. Great. You know, what's interesting about your business is, although it's a consumer app, and you mentioned the number of downloads, which is impressive. The hospitals are paying, and that's your revenue source.
Yeah.
So I guess talk a little bit about how you engage the doctor and how you make. So if I think about the value of the value of this for the hospital, you talked about kind of improving patient care, satisfaction. How do you bring those two things together? So somebody can download the thing, but how do you kind of make a consistent kind of quality of care? Do you engage the doctor in any way? Kind of talk about it.
You're pointing to part of the messiness of the U.S. healthcare system.
Okay.
So, yeah, doctors look at our app and say, oh, this is great, it looks good. Talk to the business people, I don't make decisions like this.
Okay.
So, they got to approve it, but they're not going to buy it.
And who are you selling to? So who at the hospital is purchasing?
We're selling the marketing person, or for a more progressive hospital, the patient engagement manager, the women's services manager, who has some CEO bottom line responsibility for attracting patients and having that unit be profitable.
Understood. And that person is saying, okay, this helps me in terms of, how are they, and this is obviously early days, right? So you're kind of selling, but you're learning. What are the ways they're benchmarking you in terms of whether it's successful? So if you think about kind of how you price, what are the things that you go back to them and say, hey, these are the ways that I'm helping you improve your kind of patient?
The cost of bringing new families to them.
Okay, so it's an acquisition vehicle.
It's an acquisition vehicle.
Okay.
They're also very concerned about patient satisfaction. They're the Yelp or the Yelp equivalent is everyone uses it.
Yeah.
And if they don't have such a great reputation for their operating room or for their delivery room or whatever, that's a big concern to them.
Okay.
And one of the #1 complaints of pregnant moms is, I keep asking the doctor and he never answers. She never answers.
Okay.
And the reason she doesn't answer is because it's some routine, dumb question that doesn't really have anything to do with a medical problem, so they ignore it.
Interesting.
We're an ideal vehicle for delivering, why is there a line by my belly button? The doctor will ignore that question, but moms are intensely concerned about that question, as they should be. So we kind of bridge that gap in a way that Clalit has used extensively to make the mom feels great, to give them lots of useful information, and the doctor doesn't have to worry about it at all.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Any more time?
Good.
Cool.
So, any other comments? Any other questions?
Yeah, over here. Yeah, I actually have a question from.
Sure, please. Quick.
I know a little bit about this. So, how are you engaging the alternative birth industry, birth practice of midwife-run hospitals and natural home births that are done outside medical care? It's not a medical procedure.
Right. Well, right now we're focused on hospitals, and it's just strictly a matter of focus. It's we got to focus on something. We have limited resources. We want to close sales. We want to move the business as a business. We have lots of plans to grow with some more resources.
Great answer. Thank you so much. Great job. If you'd like to sit down, there are some seats on this side, so you can just walk over here and sit down. Carl, here you go.
Oh, you want to sit
This
there?
one for you. Great. Thank you so much. Our next presenter is Ade Sanya with Moving Analytics. There you go. You have 4 minutes, starting now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ade Sonia. I am the co-founder of Moving Analytics. At Moving Analytics, we help hospitals manage patients with heart disease by helping them implement a home-based cardiac rehab program that's delivered through patients' mobile devices. We launched our product in March last year. Since then, we signed 10 hospitals as paying customers, including NYU, Trinity Health, VA, USCSF, some other ones. And we're on track to do $1 million in sales this year. So I would walk you through the problem and solve it. So each year in the US, 3.5 million Americans do a heart surgery. And to help them recover faster and improve their cardiovascular health, they are prescribed a cardiac rehab program. The problem is that less than 20% of patients actually enroll in the program, and fewer than 5% of them complete it. This is because there are very few cardiac rehab centers, and they're often very far away from patients' homes, and then the program costs up to $2,000, even with insurance. So as a result, patients don't do cardiac rehab and they get readmitted, or they even die. But for the hospitals, majority of the cardiac rehab centers are losing money because there are very few patients that come in. And with Obamacare, the hospitals are paying very significant readmission penalties. So what we do is we help the hospital implement a home-based program that patients can do at home or at work, just using a mobile device. Our product is based on research out of Stanford University. So at Stanford, they developed a home-based program called the Multiview program. And they showed through 20 years of research that patients who did that program achieved the same clinical outcomes as the in-person program. And they've also shown that patients who did it had a 90% enrollment rate and 90% completion rate. So we have an exclusive global license, that protocol from Stanford, and we've digitized that program with a mobile app for patients and a dashboard for nurses. So when we go to hospitals, they don't question if it's going to work or not. It's more of like, how do we get this program into our system and how do we implement it? So going to the business model, we charge the hospital $10,000 upfront to train them and set up the system, and say $300 license per patient. The average hospital sees about 2,000 patients who can do this program every year. So we think that if we convert 40% of them, that'd be $200,000 in sales each year per hospital.
Per hospital?
Yeah, per hospital. So you're thinking about the market, there's about 3,000 cardiac centers in the US each year, so it works out to be about $1 billion market. Our team, we have 6 people on our team. I am in charge of business development, sales, and marketing. The CEO has a background in computer science. He has a PhD in computer science out of USC. Our chief medical officer used to be the former director of cardiac rehab at Stanford University. Our director of customer success was also at Stanford, and both of them were part of the 2 people that developed the original program. We also have a CTO who does all our web and mobile, and we have a user experience designer. We're currently seeking $1 million. We have 60% of it committed, and we're looking to close out the rest of it. And the goal of it is to sign 30 new hospitals this year and really develop all the internal processes we need to really roll out our product and scale it. That's all for now. We're excited to answer any questions.
Well, I like the fact that you guys are solving a big problem. I mean, I think it's great to start with a problem that needs to be solved, and I like the fact that you guys are addressing kind of an issue that a lot of people can relate to in terms of relatives and family members in terms of heart issues. So that's great. Can you talk a little bit about your sales model and process, and who in the hospital you're selling to, and what that sale looks like?
Yeah.
So how much of an educational sale is it, and how long does it take? Kind of, what's the sales cycle? Just give me some background on the sales.
Yeah, okay. So we sell primarily to the cardiology department.
Okay.
So for very large health systems, they'll have a cardiac rehab program that's under the cardiology department. And there are 3 stakeholders and one decision-making deal. So when you think about the stakeholders, there's the head nurse who runs the cardiac rehab program. So what you have to do is when we get a hold of that person, I start asking them like how many patients, what percent of your patients enroll in the program, why do they come in? And she starts like whining about like, very few patients come in, we're losing a lot of money. And then you kind of start telling them, hey, have you heard of this? We have this home-based program. And
why are they losing money exactly?
Because patients don't come. So very few patients start the program. Okay. So 20% of the patients start. And then less than, half of them actually complete it. So
why is that?
The program is, number one, it's very far away from people. So
distance is important.
So this is important. If you live in New York, if you live in LA like I do, getting into the program is just hard, especially if you work. And the program runs during office hours, so it's 9 to 5, and if you work, you just can't get there. Okay. And then the cost, with the insurance, the co-pays.
Is insurance typically covering these rehab programs?
Yeah, so Medicare reimburses all of this.
Okay.
But the co-pays can be as high as 50%. So patients need to do like 36 sessions, and then they pay up to $100 a session. So for most people, it's just too expensive. Like,
So it's expensive, it's tedious to
get it.
So the attrition rate in terms of number of people who start the programs is very high.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of your product, what level of metrics have you been able to show in terms of completion rates, in terms of kind of adherency, and then does the insurance company get involved with you in terms of paying for?
So, yes.
So explain the money flow.
So I'll explain the money flow. So what we help the hospital do is what we call a hybrid program. So you know, patients doing 36 sessions, they do 12 of the sessions in the hospital, and they get to do the rest of the rehab at home using our technology. For that, Medicare reimburses the hospital $1,500 per patient for that hybrid program, and we charge the hospital $300 per patient.
So you charge $300?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I get it. All right.
Then what's the other question you asked?
So we talked a bit about the money flow, the results.
The results.
So how are your results so far?
So in our first 2 hospitals, we showed 80% retention to the program. So 80% of patients that started and finished it, and they all had very good clinical outcomes.
80%?
Yeah, 80%.
So much higher.
Much more high retention rate. And it's very similar to what Stanford showed in the original program that they developed. So it's very similar.
Understood. And then from a hospital's perspective, is this, because on the one hand, adherence is very low, but I guess you could, I don't know, on average, you mentioned kind of people aren't able to pay, but from the insurance company, the hospital may be making a good amount of money on these traditional programs, right?
Yeah.
Or no? So if I'm a hospital, I'm looking at you versus the status quo.
You're doing both. So what we're doing now is we're working with the current cardiac rehab programs, right? So this is not a separate program. And now we're giving them this technology to implement this hybrid. And the goal is that they can increase enrollment to the program, because now the hospital is offering patients, a more convenient and affordable option. So we're saying, instead of you coming 36 times, you just need to come 12 times. And then you do the rest of the program at home, get an app, your nurses constantly monitoring what you do. So all of that, it helps them sell to more patients. So they're making fewer revenues per patient per head, but the goal is that they make up for that in the volume that they do. And then because most of the program is remote, the overhead, the additional cost of seeing more patients is actually lower. So it's just a more efficient play for the hospital.
Cool. I guess my last question is in terms of use of funds. So you talked about raising $1 million.
Yeah.
What's the use of capital?
So it's to support our current team. So we're building out the product. We're improving it based on our customer demands and feedback. We're also growing our sales and marketing efforts and our customer support. So the way we work, because of the nature of the product, you kind of have to handhold, the customers in going through all the training and all the implementation. So internally, we're starting to map out all these processes, as we work with our 10 hospitals that we signed last year. And we just want to, build internal tools we need also to scale that. So when we look at going, 2017 and up, we're trying to handle hundreds of customers. We would have the internal infrastructure to be able to handle that. So that's really the goal, is to get to that place where we can just pour, gasoline on the fire and make it bread.
Very cool. Well, those are all my questions. Very, very cool.
Any questions?
What was the name of the company?
It's called Moving Analytics.
Great job. So we have 3 more companies, but anyone here, when we're all done, anyone is interested in coming up here and pitching to Namdi on the spot, impromptu, like a brave and crazy entrepreneur. Think about it. I'll ask again, but we don't bite, and you can come up here and pitch, and you might end up getting some cash. As I said, like everyone's getting funded tonight. All right. So next company is Philip Meese with Mission X. We have 4 minutes, and let's encourage it. Come on.
Thank you, New York entrepreneurs. My name is Philip. I'm here to introduce Mission X. Mission X is the first hyper-local promotional platform for retailers designed to bring mobile consumers into physical stores. For the consumer, Mission X is a gamified mobile app that allows you to shop deals in your area on your time frame. The problem is this: retailers spend millions creating these magical wonderlands that are stores, but it's absolutely no good to anybody if you're not walking through that door. As we know, bricks and mortar is losing to online, just this past Black Friday was the first time in history when online sales surpassed bricks and mortar. In addition, consumers shop in store, we all know this, to see the merchandise, then they use their mobile apps to get better pricing online. That's pretty bad, but it gets worse. Retailers typically have promotional outlets that are outdated or ineffective. The printed materials that go out for most retailers are slow to get to market, and the mass email campaigns have criminally low response rates. So the opportunity here is huge. The US retail market is $4.5 trillion, and bricks and mortar is 94% of that. This year, 2016, mobile marketers will spend $7.5 billion on mobile advertising alone. In the next 3 years, they'll spend 160% of that. So that's going up by 160%. That's about $9 million for you guys doing the math at home. So the moment really is now for Mission X. The mobile shopping is increasing. Just this past Black Friday again, retailers saw a 95% increase in mobile shopping over last year. Non-relevant push campaigns are flooding consumers' inboxes, creating promotional fatigue, something I think marketing psychologists call promotional fatigue. And ad blocking is now creating new problems for marketers. That's hard to deal with. So Mission X solves this problem by offering retailers a way to bring consumers into their store via a gamified mobile app. This is creating the first time when retailers can use mobile to their advantage. Not only that, but Mission X is fun. Offers are turned into missions. Once the mission is accepted, the consumer sees a countdown timer on the screen. The faster they get to the store, the higher their discount. Yeah, we know. We thought about that too. So for retailers, on the other hand, Mission X is a platform for them to publish offers to their consumers in real time. You've got 150 snowblowers out front that aren't moving because it's 60 degrees out and it's December. Bang, you publish a 10% discount offer through Mission X in 60 seconds. So the founding team is composed of myself. I'm a software engineer and a software services entrepreneur. I sold my first company to a publicly traded entity. Dean Graziano is my friend and founding partner of the company. He's also the product designer, experienced entrepreneur with 14 years and several previous successful exits. Our sales honcho is a digital marketing entrepreneur who both Dean and I have worked with. Our current situation is that we're a pre-revenue startup based in Seattle and New York. We took $235,000 worth of angel funding in April. Since that time, we've built our alpha app. We have secured provisional patent. We've put in place other team members. We have put in place marketing and sales materials. And at this point, we're seeking not only really valuable feedback from all the smart people in this room on the idea and the questions you might have and any input you might have, but also $1.5 million in seed round funding to bring us to revenue in about 18 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. So there's a lot of different elements to what you're building. I guess maybe talk a little bit about your partnerships with retailers. You mentioned it's pre-launch. You're building the app. It's not yet available, but it will be. Talk a bit about your strategy with retailers in terms of, I assume they're going to be your monetization. Are you selling to retailers?
Yes.
That's the thing. Okay.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about any conversations you've had so far with retailers in the sense of what do they like about this? What might they be willing to pay you? What are the things that they're asking you in terms of the features that they need to have you need to have in the app? And are there specific types of retailers that you're going to be focusing on? You know, folks that may be likely to be giving discounts. Just give me a sense of your strategy from a retail perspective. It sounds like those partnerships are going to be critical in a sense of you providing kind of relevant offers to the users so that they're going to the stores, right?
Yeah, they will be. our business plan has 2 stages to it. The first stage is an enterprise sales stage. So we'll be selling to the Home Depots and the Best Buys and the Lowe's of the world. These are people who our current salesperson speaks to every day. What those guys have, every single one of those guys has around 2 to 3 million mobile users on their apps already. What they would like to do is integrate the Mission X API so that they can run Mission X offers out to their existing base of mobile users. Our early conversations are really with partners around this. So one of the partners we have is currently the partner that provides Best Buy and Lowe's and a number of other large enterprises with their internal store microbeam inventory location systems. So in a Best Buy store, if you want to know where the iPhones are in any Best Buy store in the United States, the people who provide this service to Best Buy can tell you exactly what shelf and where that shelf is located in the store. So these are people who are selling to our target customer base already. So we've gotten a lot of great intel from them on pricing and how services are preferred to these guys.
Understood. And in terms of tracking, so in terms of tracking the results of your app, obviously if people download it, they're seeing the ads, that's one thing, but or is there a way for you to track through purchase, point of purchase? So you mentioned potentially integrating with their app, but is there a way for, I guess, and it's very early, but is there a way for retailers to see once you launch how efficient this is being in terms of driving people to the stores or helping them?
So the mobile app will track somebody right up until they get to the store.
Okay.
In fact, that countdown timer keeps running until you get right up to the store, and then it clicks over and shows you a discount barcode that can be scanned on entry. So that's our way of tracking incoming
You know who goes to the store, but it's hard. You may not know who's going to actually end up buying. You know who's going there.
You're right. So, but our vision is to connect those two.
Okay.
And I think it's a great question because analytics is the value-added sort of second-level sale in this. The analytics that are going to come out of this thing are going to be incredible, unlike anything else the retailer has.
Cool. I guess my last question is around kind of what's your model? I guess what's your timing for getting this launched? I assume you're launching in the App Store, but I don't know where you're going to be launching. But what's your timing to get there? And how do you kind of cut through? There's so many apps out there. There's so many things that people can use. What's your strategy for kind of putting something out there that resonates and gets a lot of people to start using it? Is there a marketing strategy? Do you have a focus in terms of who you're going after, in terms of types of customers?
Great question. So app adoption, right? It's the Achilles heel of so many apps.
Sure.
Our strategy for that is to engage with our enterprise retail clients first. In the first 3 years, we're looking to engage with up to 6 of those entities. These are large entities. They have large installed bases. By the time we're doing business with 6 of them, we'll have 25 million installed users. At that point, we'll probably launch the standalone Mission X app before that, but up until that point, we'll be running through their install base.
Great idea. What's the target age that you're going after? And would there ever be sort of a DM, direct messaging component where someone in the store could interact with somebody who's interested in buying? Like
Yes.
Just like Instacart.
So target age, I don't really have an answer for that. But in terms of direct messaging, that's certainly something that could be done. A messaging substrate could be built into the app. But just so that you know, as soon as I browse through the app, the offers that are available in my area using this app, and I select a mission to start, I show up on the web-based interface that the retailer has, and he can watch me drive in Uber-like. So there's a potential for interaction all the way in.
So if I'm Best Buy, why would I want to use your API versus
Because we're going to be fast moving, we're going to be putting these offers out on our own app, as well as through their app. It's an enhancement. They have wish lists that are probably worth billions of dollars that they're doing nothing with right now. It's an avenue towards personalization. I'm currently working as an an engagement manager for a digital marketing firm. So I understand a lot about the digital marketers world and what they're doing. Almost nobody's doing anything with personalization. So this has a huge personalization component to it.
Awesome. Great job.
Thanks.
Any questions? So as you've seen, like a bunch of these companies are new and they're new products. Every once in a while, you get an application where the product has been out there for some time. There's lots of adoption, and then now the founders want to turn it on. And our next presenter is Shibo Zood with Compesh. If they're here, there. Here you go.
All right.
You have 4 minutes.
Hi everybody, I'm Shibo. I'm going to be talking to you about Compesh. And I want to start by sharing a little story about the internet. When I was growing up, the internet was a place where you can share and speak honestly. I thought this was good because it gave us an ability to have honest feedback. And I think that helped us grow. The internet as it is today is a place where everything you do is tracked and categorized to your identity. As a result, I think it's made us a little more guarded, a little more afraid to be honest with each other, and a little more afraid to share what we really think. Compesh wants to bring privacy back to the internet. We allow people to build digital communities, private digital communities, anonymously, and for honest discussion. Overall, on the Compesh site, there are no usernames, no sign up, no profiles, and we don't keep any IP logs. What we're hoping to do is by providing absolute user privacy and safety, we can get the honesty back. And people will be free and feel safe to share what they really think. The product started when I was in college. We built it for my college. It was very popular. And then a few other schools and students asked us to build it for them, and we did. And after that, we actually did nothing. This was back in 2007, so 7 or 8 years ago. Despite having no maintenance, no feature updates, and the site's not even mobile friendly, we got 700,000 page views last year across 5,000 students. We decided last year to turn this experiment into an actual platform so that anybody and everybody can create one for their school, friend group, workplace, or even around the topic. Since we launched last September, we have 200 daily active users, 4,500 monthly active users. From October to November, we got 48% user growth, and from November to December, we reached 58% user growth. The vision of the site is to provide private anonymous communities for everybody, and we want to manage these communities and provide services to users using bots. So for example, we're currently talking to some healthcare startups that connects users to therapists. And what we like to do is to analyze what the users post using bots and then recommend these therapy services for the user. Another bot that we're building actually is for the Dreams Compesh community. In this community, people come in and they write their dreams from last night and they get interpretations. People like this and it's pretty popular. And we're building a bot to make this a little more automated. We're going to analyze an entire corpus of data and then automatically provide this information when people post their dreams. What we're looking for right now is seed fundings to continue our development. We want to build an iOS and Android app. We want to approach new communities, and we want to build more bots to help us control and provide services for these communities. We believe that these bots can help us protect user privacy and guarantee safety while still offering services and help drive user engagement. That's it. Thank you.
Very cool. Yeah,
it's a little bit different.
That's a different one. Interesting. I guess talk a little bit. So you mentioned a lot of things. You said no profiles, no usernames, no passwords. Is this completely anonymous?
Yes.
So I go on there and I create. Explain. I guess I have to see it to understand it. But explain what I do. Yeah. Explain kind of like a use case.
Yeah, so basically you go onto the site and you can create a Confesh community. It's just a forum.
Okay.
And you set the URL and you set a password or you set an email domain.
Okay.
We also have in the back end an ability to actually fence a community based on geofencing and IP addresses. And so when you come to it, what we do is we check if you have the password, we issue a token. If you have an email domain, we'll send the token to that email. And then once you have that token lets you in. Every time you come to the site, we give you a new token. We just check to see if you have the cookie. So we have sessions, but we don't have persistent users.
Interesting. So you talked about some of the numbers. You said 5,000 students, 700,000 page views.
Yes.
Explain the communities you've created, and I guess explain the strategy. It sounds like you started with your own college, so it's very popular.
Yeah.
I guess explain the types of communities that have been created, and what's your strategy for growing it? So if you want to go from 5,000 students to 100,000 users or multiple 100,000 users, how do you plan to do that?
Yeah, so a few things. First, that 5,000 students, that is confirmed for Mount Holyoke and Smith College. Okay. So that's only for, that product is online at those two schools.
Yeah.
And it's working pretty well. The Confesh new platform that we built, that has 4,500 monthly active users. And so we have a few different types of communities. One of the popular communities on our current new platform is workplaces. So the agencies that I used to work at, consulting companies I used to work at, we've launched a few at those companies, and they seem to be doing pretty well. And they're starting to spread a little more. People are starting to build their own for their own agencies. Another one is that we've actually started approaching topic-based communities. Because that seems to be a very easy way to kind of get everybody in, and it's very low cost per acquisition. So we can just use SEM, and then we say everybody who's looking for, so a new community we launched is actually called Struggles, so it's struggles.confesh.com, and people go in there and they just post about whatever they're struggling with in life. And then whenever they Google something that says struggles, we basically call that AdWord, and they come in, they start posting, and they come back.
So you're seeing good engagement?
Yeah, pretty good engagement. And we want to approach schools with a new platform as well to really like balloon this up. But in our initial experiments, it seems like that students really require us to build iOS and Android apps to approach that market.
Okay.
We've talked to them a few times, and they all kind of said, yeah, there's Yik Yak, and we will definitely use yours. Yours is more private,
Yeah.
but there's no mobile app, so we're not really going to use it.
Interesting. I guess my last question is around two questions. Monetization, kind of your plan to make money. And then what are you seeking in terms of capital?
Yeah. So in terms of monetization, we believe that the bots we created can actually provide services and provide lead generation. So in that example I provided, when somebody posts something that's sensitive and we think might be interesting for a therapist, we can actually provide, at that time of post, we can suggest and say, hey, would you like to use this therapy service? Maybe it's one of the startups therapy services, or maybe it's a therapist within their neighborhood or their area. And if we provide that kind of lead generation, we think we can make some revenue in the middle of that. And then we think that bots can actually provide pretty interesting services. One of the things is almost like we haven't flushed this out completely, but we think that the bots can actually provide transaction services. And so when you post on the site and you say you're selling a bike, you can actually give the bot some Bitcoin wallet address. And then anybody who responds can actually give their Bitcoin wallet address as well, and the bot can act as an escrow service without ever actually having to know who it is. A little bit crazy, I know.
Any other questions, suggestions, Bitcoins?
Yeah.
I'm just curious about your algo for your bots. Can you just talk about it a little bit?
Yep. So a lot of this information is a little bit proprietary. We're using neural network-based bots. Mostly, we're approaching libraries at the moment, existing neural network-based libraries that can help us, that are very good at natural language processing. And then we're going to probably build on top of that based on the content that we have. We've been kind of testing our content with these algorithms to kind of see if they give us good keywords and recommendations, and so far everything's been pointing to very positive.
I'm just curious, how do you prevent people from feeling that they're being...
Good job. So at this moment, we have one more company pitch, and after that, we'll go for the brave, crazy entrepreneur. At the moment, how many people are thinking about wanting to pitch? Very good, very good, very good. Awesome. And thank you. So our last company is Eddie Geller, rather, with Tiny Beans.
My name's Eddie Geller. I'm the co-founder CEO of a company called Tiny Beans, originally from Sydney, Australia, and moved here end of 2014 to build out the Tiny Beans business. So Tiny Beans, I'm one of 3 co-founders, and really that's the backstory of what we're trying to solve here. So 2 problems we're trying to solve. One is to basically, it's very hard for parents to basically create a very simple way in which they capture moments of their kids and share it with their families all over the world. So parents are using WhatsApp, they're using SMS, using text, they're using Facebook, and I'm sure all of us have lots of overzealous friends that tend to want to share too much on those public networks. So it's all about a very private experience. Number 2 is we think as parents, it's very hard to get the right information at the right time when you need it as parents. So every child grows up differently, and all the systems out there think of all kids the same. And we think there's a way in which you can curate lots of great content and serve it up to the parents at the right time. So the solution is the platform we've built out. It's a bunch of apps for parents, and we have an email and a web platform for families, and it's really easy. So parents download our app, and they set up a private journal, and they invite their families all over the world to be part of it. So like great-grandparents and grandparents that basically get emails every day. And like I spoke to a dad the other day, he's out of St. Louis, he shares his Tiny Beans with his grandfather. He's 94 years old, the great-grandfather of his, obviously, his child, and he gets Tiny Beans moments every morning. And we get these incredible messages every day that we bring these families together all over the world. So we're very fortunate, really, in the company. The market's obviously huge, obviously, in terms of parents and kids. I mean, in the US alone, roughly $1 trillion has been spent in the kids market alone. The platform is very, very easy to use, and obviously, users are downloading it every day. As far as traction to date, we're about 1 million registered users. That's obviously parents and grandparents. We have roughly 400,000 monthly active users and roughly 140,000 daily active users. We've focused very, very hard on onboarding and retention. At the moment, we're about a 60% retention of 180 days. So it's very important for us to basically engage, onboard, obviously target the right user, and obviously ensure that they stay with us forever. The team's about 13 people, 10 of which are in Sydney, so the product team's out of Sydney, and 3 of us here in New York. We really see the product team staying in Sydney and the US being really, sales strategy marketing. And the reason for moving here is really 75% of our users are here. And the reason why New York is really, I see ourselves as a media business, working with brands and ad agencies to really scale the company. We're looking to monetize, well, we do monetize already. We're averaging about 50K a month already in revenue, really monetizing 3 ways, and actually monetization has been incredibly important to us because there's been many companies that have gone along this journey and failed in this space, and we really wanted to work hard to ensure that we can build a viable business. We generate revenue 3 ways. One is through premium products, so you can download the app that's free, but you can also upgrade to premium, and we generate revenue that way. We also have printing, which isn't very sexy, but everyone demands it, so it's outsourced, and if you want a photo book or a canvas, whatever, you can also generate revenue through printing. But really the exciting revenue for us is really advertising. Because advertising is very much native, integrated content advertising. So it's how we can connect great brands and their great content to parents and families at the right time. And there's thousands of use cases from my child's ready for potty training, how do I go and get the best content for potty training? My child's ready to start to read, how do I get that? And we've worked with brands in the US like Scholastic, Babies R Us, Burt's Bees Baby, and a whole bunch of other brands to really validate the platform. We're raising $3 million, which will be our first institutional round. Just over 50% of that will go to product engineering and continue to build out the platform. Roughly 20% will go into sales and roughly 30% into marketing, because all that growth's been organic. We work very, very hard to try and build organic and really word of mouth, because you can't really scale today with paid acquisition, although we've done lots of tests, it's really organic. So we're looking for great investors to be along the journey, and thank you very much.
there's a lot of things that you said that I like, in the sense that the things that jumped out at me were, one, the retention of your users. So you mentioned 60% retained over 180 days. So people are staying.
Yeah.
You mentioned total number of registered users, 1,400,000 monthly actives. I guess explain how long the app has been live, so
sure.
How rapidly that user base has grown.
Sure.
And then talk a little bit about frequency of engagement, in terms of how much time and how frequently people are using it, say, on a monthly basis.
Sure. So we've been in market, I guess, about 3.5 years.
Okay.
And like any business when they're starting, I think it took us 12 months to get to 25,000 users.
Sure.
So enormous amount of hustle and validation. It's really scaled dramatically over the last 12 to 24 months.
And what things triggered that growth?
So probably a combination of things. One thing, the major thing I would say is nailing the perfect user. So I think when the business starts, we want all users, we already care where, but obviously they're not engaging and they're obviously not retaining them. So it's trying to figure out who's the right user. So we've worked really hard to figure out the right user is a new mum or mum-to-be. So roughly 80% of acquisition is now for new parents and when they've just had the baby. Because if you're a parent and you've got a 4-year-old and you're using some tool already, it'd be very hard for us to convince you to come to use Tiny Beans. I'd love you to, but it'd be very hard and very costly for me to migrate you across. But if you've just started to have the baby and you have no habit for us to break, you're very likely to hopefully come on board. So very focused on the right user, and then a lot of work on onboarding them successfully to then scale it, and then using them as the mouthpiece to amplify it with all their friends, etc. So, for example, if you asked me, probably around 3 months ago, we're averaging about 1,000 users a day, and now we're about 1,600 to 1,700 a day.
Great. And how much time did you say they spend
Sure.
per session, and how many sessions?
Mm-hmm. So if you look at the app, we've designed a calendar view. So when you open it up, it's very much trying to encourage daily interaction. Mm-hmm. There's even a reminder every day at 6 p.m. to have you taken your Tiny Beans moment today. Mm-hmm. So on average, we have about 3.5 minutes per session. On average 13 sessions a month. Okay. Like if you look at a weekly active, we're roughly 240, 250,000 weekly active, and obviously 400,000 monthly active. So we've built a lot of, features to try and drive that utility. How do we build utility in the app? And that's why it's really important for us to have a platform that's not only about photos and videos and milestones, but also content, because and we often acquire through the moment, but we retain them through the content and the engagement. And they're coming back for more and more through the content we're targeting.
Is the content primarily user-generated content, or do you have content creators on your team?
So it's all external content, and we're basically, creating some of our own content to stitch that content together. So for example, we did a deal with Scholastic. They have wonderful literacy content for our kids. So we'll incorporate that content into our app. So you've got a 5-year-old boy, here's some great tools to help help him with his literacy, for example, sponsored by Scholastic. So it's all about, it's not a content problem we're fixing. There's actually too much content. You do a search for Google, you type in, in Google for new baby, and you get over 1 billion results. So it's not a content problem, there's lots of great content, it's a curation problem. So we want to curate great, healthy content and give that to the right user at the right time, because we have so much data on the right user and obviously the child. So it's all about filtering all that.
That's great. I guess my last question is around partnerships. So you guys have done a good job of building a community organically, which is probably the hardest part in terms of building an app company, is just getting a critical mass in terms of users at the beginning. Is there any strategy to partner with companies that may have very large user bases on their website? Maybe they don't have as many on mobile app, and maybe in a sense kind of either white label or kind of power their mobile experience, or the way that the folks interact with their mobile content? Sure,
it's a great question. We've actually been approached by companies to white label our platform, and we've actually steered away.
Explain.
So personally, I think when you start to white label, you're really not in the business we're in. I think you become almost a software business. And I had a previous software business, and I've been through those hard days. I'm not interested in building this as a software business. Having said that, I think as we get bigger, there's probably collaborations we could do with great brands and work together. That it could be The babies are app powered by Tiny Beans, etc. But we've been approached by companies to take away everything Tiny Beans and make it their own, and we're just not interested in it.
So you want to be the destination?
Yeah, we want to. I mean, we have a very big vision. Obviously, I haven't got time to explain, but I mean, we want to build an ecosystem called the Internet of Family. And today, there's thousands and thousands of websites for parents and kids that are all disparate. They're all disconnected. They don't talk to one another, and they're all over the place. We feel there's a great opportunity to bring them all together and integrate them into a family ecosystem or a family marketplace that doesn't exist today. And because we're capturing so much data on the child and so much data on the family, we think there's enormous opportunity to create that as we scale the business.
Cool.
Great. Oh, thanks.
Feedback, questions?
Sure.
So every year brings a new set of adventures for a new mom.
Uh-huh.
You know, well, what should I do when my child turns 2? You know, because they're doing different things than they did 6 months ago. Are in your curation, are you looking at sort of staging your content to be appropriate for that as the children grow?
Sure. Great question. We've got a very big focus on developmental milestones. So we're actually in the app, we help the parents understand the differences from fine motor skills to gross motor skills to all those other elements for a child and really help them understand those different challenges and different stages. So parents are tagging where they're at, and then we can incorporate content into those stages to really help them, you know, help their child reach those relevant stages. But we're very early on in that journey. We really wanted to understand, are parents, you know, keen to be tagging these milestones at a very granular level, to really be going, you know, they're 18 months old, can they hold a pencil? You know, 3 years old, are they actually saying ABC and those types of things? I mean, parents are already very anxious, you know, to create more anxiety is unhealthy, so it's about finding that balance of, you know, slow, you know, organic content as opposed to like, make sure your kid does this or else. Make sense?
Great. Thanks.
Okay, cool.
Great job. All right, this is going to be very quick and painless. Please stand up if you'd like to pitch to Namdi. People are standing up, please sit down. I mean, people were already standing up, so. Okay, so now Namdi is going to say things like, if you had like eggs this morning, sit down, or something like that, about your company. So.
Cool. Well, I like enterprise focused companies. We have a lot of mobile apps.
Okay, so if you have a consumer startup, sit down.
Businesses.
If you have a consumer...
Stand up if you're selling to businesses, either enterprise
The other way. If you have a consumer company, sit down.
There you go.
Good. But don't lie, we'll check later.
Okay, all right. And then if you don't have any revenue, sit down. So
no revenue, sit down.
Who's got some revenue?
Everybody sits down. Okay. Okay, we have actually 5 people left. Okay, maybe 6. Let's have you guys say what you're doing in 1 sentence, very quick.
Helping everybody study much better and faster.
Working with subprime borrowers to get their money for their business ventures.
Created a new channel for B2B companies to generate leads.
Internet of Things, mobile play, give you a SIM, works all over the world, half the price.
A cloud application development marketplace automation platform.
Augmented reality, virtual reality for architectures and architects and interior designers, furniture industry.
Interesting.
Okay, so which one would you like to come up here?
That's a really tough one. I like VR, actually.
All right,
VR,
here we go. You have 4 minutes, and here you go.
Hello everyone, our company is AR Pandora, so Pandora with AR on the top, with representing augmented reality. So we came up with the technology. AR is pretty new, and we help architecture companies and real estate developers to present their buildings using new ways of presenting augmented reality and virtual reality. So I'm standing there, I have like many gadgets. Like what I'm doing is very virtual. Either I do videos or like I show my gadgets to people. Standing here and trying to tell it is quite hard, but holding your iPhone up to the sky, you can see the world. Like there's a new World Trade Center coming up, second one. So you can hold your phone up and you can see that building coming out there. Or using any brochure, we can switch out a like full story building out of it. Or you can wear the headset and you can walk through a future real estate development. And we help people to sell their product better. And we work with like many companies, let's say. So we work with like 20 companies right now, and we generate around like $70,000 right now, and like including General Electric and Steelcase H3 architecture from here, and we're working with Decorilla, which is the interior design company. And from my background, I'm a software engineer, and I started a couple of businesses here. I'm one of the best customers in APT Deco.
Okay.
And I have a furniture startup, and we generated we started selling through APT Deco, so we generated like $50,000 there.
Okay, cool.
Our company is based in Turkey, Istanbul. And like most of the software guys are there, and like labor is cheaper. And we're working on a software as a service system where any architect in the whole world can upload their designs and use this as a software as a service feature. It's pretty cool, but I have to show it to you. Yeah. So money-wise, we need $250,000.
Okay.
Actually, like, our product is ready. We just need the money for sales and marketing purposes. For this time, we spent only like $10,000 and generated $70,000, and we're looking to spend and generate more money on it.
Cool. Maybe can you give one case study in terms of, you mentioned like GE and Steelcase. What are they paying you for exactly?
So each project costs around what they're paying for.
What they're paying
for. So for now, we're like, as the last person talking here, we do like white label apps right now.
Okay.
But what we are planning to do, like from that experience we got, we are automating the whole process, and we're gonna offer this service as a software as a service. So any architect in the world, they can upload their designs using like 3D, Revit, SketchUp. Rhino, we are writing plugins, so using those plugins, people can actually create augmented reality, virtual reality apps by themselves. So it will be like a WordPress of creating architectural viewing through their own platform.
Cool. Questions?
Any questions? Comments?
Do you know doing architecture?
I'm sorry?
Architecture.com. Architects put their own works.
I know a couple of them, but I don't know that one.
Okay.
It is a competition.
Great.
I'll definitely check that.
Thanks so much for coming. Thanks to Namdi for doing this. It was super helpful. Yes, you need come up here and if you want to talk to him. And again, thanks for coming. See you guys next month. Thank you.
Sorry.